When you think about Australian weather, the first thing that comes to mind probably isn't how cold it can get.
So I'm from Norway, but Australian winters have humbled me.
Can someone please explain to me why Australian winters feel like I'm on the Titanic?
Greetings from Sydney, Australia, a place where in the winter your house inside is colder than the f***ing outside.
It doesn't even get particularly cold by international standards, especially compared to our friends in the Northern Hemisphere. The average low in Australia's coldest capital city, Canberra, doesn't even fall below zero. Compare that to Berlin, New York or Stockholm, and you start to wonder what all the fuss is about. So what gives? Why are people so cold? It's all got to do with Australian houses. To be precise, how we build them and how we heat them. I'm here in Ballarat with Lainey, who's just bought a new house, and Dale, an energy assessor. He's going to take us through and show us where the house is cold and how to heat it up.
It was built in around 1880. It's like a traditional sort of front miner's cottage.
So what are you expecting from the energy assessment?
Lots of good tips. Being such an old house, it's going to be really important to do everything that I can to make it energy efficient.
The first thing Dale does is analyse the house's thermal envelope.
We can see that there's insulation gaps over the section of roof.
Looking for places where heat is escaping.
I can see that there is no wall insulation, there's no underfloor insulation, there's limited insulation in the ceiling, there are lots of drafts throughout the house, and the glazing and the window coverings are really are quite poor.
Despite its poor thermal performance, this is actually quite normal for Australia. The World Health Organization recommends houses be kept at a minimum of 18 degrees Celsius to create a safe and well-balanced home during winter. But a study published last year found that over 80% of Australian homes surveyed fell below that threshold.
Whenever I talk about homes, I still get people, even if they've got lots of money, telling me, oh, my bedroom is cold. I've got condensation on my windows in the mornings. I sleep with a hoodie.
In Victoria, the average star rating through the scorecard program is only 3 stars out of 10.
So how did Australian homes get so cold in the first place? According to housing expert and European expat Nicola, a lack of regulation and an abundance of cheap energy.
In Germany, the first insulation requirements were introduced in the 1950s. So after the Second World War, a lot of homes were destroyed, so people had to rebuild the homes just from the rubble that they found, which meant that the quality wasn't really good. And then homes developed mold. So to stop mold, they introduced minimum insulation requirements very early. The other thing that happened in Europe was that they had a huge energy crisis. The oil crisis in the 1970s meant that households had to curb their heating energy use. At that point, everyone realized we just have to build better. Whereas in Australia, energy has always been abundant and very cheap. Since then, energy prices have gone up disproportionately to the wage increases. So now, heating is very expensive.
Lainey has her work cut out for her. Insulation is one of the most important ways to keep houses warm in winter.
The house has got the original wool insulation. What the previous householders have done is they've put a good cover of polyester bats over the top. They do need a little bit of rearranging. If we can get them arranged, there's no need to do any further upgrades.
Another huge pain point for Australian houses in winter, windows. Up to 40% of a home's heat can be lost through them.
So you can see with these windows in the kitchen that there is no window covering whatsoever. So the heat loss coming out of these windows is going to be really high.
Double glazing can be an expensive solution for homeowners and out of reach for renters. Bubble wrap can be a cheap and temporary option, and Lainey can always invest in some blinds.
The best type of window covering today is a blind called a honeycomb blind. They're double layered and they trap a layer of air inside the blind.
Draft Hunter Dale says sealing up gaps around windows and doors is one of the cheapest and easiest ways to keep the heat in. Other places to find and fix gaps include old fireplaces, floorboards and crevices between window frames and the plasterboard.
And often you'll find large gaps that can be easily sealed for just a few dollars with a cork.
And the verdict on the best way for Lainey to heat her home?
Reverse cycle air conditioning is actually 1/3 of the cost of heating a home compared to gas.
With one caveat.
Sometimes they get really clogged, and then it dramatically reduces the heat output of the air conditioner.
Whether you're renting or buying, there are some quick and relatively cheap steps you can take to stop your house from leaking so much heat. And investing in some of the more expensive retrofits could save you money long term, especially with the price of electricity right now. It'll make your home more comfortable and cheaper to run. And with households making up 1/4 of Australia's energy consumption, it could also help to reduce emissions.